What's going on, everybody? This is Hostile Q&A number 6, and I have about 200 questions that I've sifted through, and I think I cut it down to 50 maybe. So we have a lot of questions that I'm going to try and get to. I thought I just picked out the most popular ones, so I'm going to leave a lot of the questions in the description below. So make sure you check it out, look down, and all the questions will be there. So if you don't want to listen to all of this, you can go through and find the question you're most interested in, and you can click on that. Also, a lot of you asked me to put this up for podcast, for audio listening. So this whole thing will be released on my Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, and it'll be released all at once. Those of you watching on YouTube, it'll probably be released in 2 or 3 parts because it's so long. So without wasting any more time, let's get to the questions and see what's what. So the first question is from Jake's Physique, and he asks, how much experience should one have before they do their first show? For me, it was pretty simple. I basically assessed my physique, and I looked at what I needed. I was like, okay, I don't have any legs, I don't have any back, I don't have any arms, I got a decent chest, and that was about it. So that's where I was starting. So I said, okay, I'm going to give myself a year and a half, maybe a little less, 14 months, 15 months, and see what I can do. And I took all that time and put on the right amount of muscle. And when I got to my first show, I won my first show in the overall, but I gave myself the time I thought I needed to build a good frame. And that reference came from friends that had already been competing. So I already talked to some friends that said, you know, it's going to take you X amount of time to build this amount of muscle. So I took their advice, and I was very critical of myself. I wasn't delusional at all. And I gave myself the time I needed to put on the muscle to step on stage and not embarrass myself. But don't be scared to ask for help. Don't be scared to find a coach. Don't be scared to find somebody help you with your posing. Don't be scared to help somebody help you with your training. Look, everybody thinks they know how to train. Everybody thinks they know how to diet. Oh, I got a good diet. I got a good training program. There's probably somebody out there with a better one. So if you're just starting out, look around, get some help, do your research, find a coach if you can afford it, and give yourself the time you need. And just go by the mirror. Just go by the mirror. When you feel like you put on a lot of size and you feel like you had a good off season, then say, okay, I'm going to diet down. I need 12 to 16 weeks and I'm going to get ready for my first show. But don't pick a show like, if you've never competed, you just started working out, don't pick a show like 3 months away and expect to walk on stage and crush everybody unless you're a genetic freak. Next question is from Sip Freak Customs, and he says, what is the tattoo on your back? The tattoo on my back is from a book called Dynamic Anatomy. And it's a guy kind of in the thinking pose. I got it when I was 25 or 26, something like that. And I don't regret getting it. I'm happy I got it. To me, it kind of represents who I am. I feel like I'm an emotional bodybuilder. I'm a aggressive bodybuilder. I'm a intense bodybuilder. But I'm a bodybuilder at heart. So it's kind of like a guy, he's really muscular, but it's an anatomy of the guy. So all the skin is torn off. You can see all the muscle fibers, but he's thinking, and that's just kind of who I feel like I am. So yeah, at the time it suited what I believed in and who I thought I was. So I got it tattooed on my back. Ricardo Valentino says, do you think we'll ever see another Ronnie Coleman? Ronnie Coleman is... Okay, I'm going to say this. First of all, I'm never going to say never because we're always progressing as people. But I believe Ronnie Coleman is going to stand the test of time, at least in my lifetime, because... Number one, the standards for the IFBB have changed. So they don't necessarily want mass freaks anymore. They want streamlined physiques that look pretty but still have muscle. So it's hard to get to Ronnie's size while still staying streamlined. Like one of the things people don't realize is people claim, oh, this guy's got gut, that guy's got a gut, blah, blah, blah. When you break your body's genetic potential, like everybody has a genetic potential. So for me, for example, I believe my body's genetic potential probably was 240 to 245. Okay. I feel like once I broke past that and tried to put on more muscle than my frame could hold, that's probably a better way to say it. Everybody has that amount of muscle their body can hold and still look good. I feel like once you break that level, that muscle's got to go somewhere and starts to go to your waist and this and that. And now, since the waist has become such a focal point of the physique, guys aren't going to be able to get to Ronnie Coleman's size and not worry about blowing out their waist. So I don't know if we're going to get a guy like Ronnie Coleman that's that dominant in so many different body parts. Like we have Big Rami, and Big Rami is close to a Ronnie Coleman in size, but not in dominance, not that sheer mass and perfect proportions and perfect symmetry and all those things. So it's tough. I don't know if we'll see it again until maybe if the pendulum swings the other way again and the IFBB starts looking for more mass freaks, then it could definitely happen. But with the way the judging and the scope of how the IFBB is right now, I feel like it's definitely not conducive to bringing out that super crazy mass freak that will just blow away everybody. K Marvelous says, what got Luke and you together to start a podcast? Did you have anyone else in mind beforehand? Me and Luke met on a photo shoot and an expo for Iron Rebel when we were both sponsored by them. And we kind of just hit it off, became friends. Not like friends like call each other every fucking night kind of thing, but like, work friends. We just kind of got along. And I had him on the podcast, and we had a lot of fun on the podcast. People enjoyed it a lot. And I felt like we had a good chemistry. So I thought, hey, you know what? Why don't we do a 1-hour show every week and just shoot the shit? Because we kind of get along like that. So I was like, if the symmetry's good and the synergy is good and people like it, then why not go on with it? Plus, it's almost like a means for me to keep in touch because I'm not really good at keeping in touch with long distance friends. So when we do the podcast, it's a way for me to keep in touch with Luke and keep our friendship strong and also put out some good content that people seem to like and enjoy watching. Pat Vecchio 64 says, what's your opinion on the push-pull leg routine? I know John Meadows is a big advocate of it. What's your opinion of this routine, and have you ever used it? I think it's a great routine for somebody who likes that style. Personally, it's not for me. Ever since I started working out, I have been a 1 or 2 body part a day person. I train 5 or 6 days a week, 1 or 2 body parts a day, and that's just always been my style, and it's all I know. And I tried doing like different combinations, and I feel like I just can't get the right amount of work in. But I'm pretty sure it's probably just because it's something I didn't start from the beginning, and I just, after 20 years, you're not going to just completely revamp everything you're doing. Personally, I feel like I'm definitely not an advocate of full body routines, but push-pull legs is a good routine, I think, definitely for somebody starting out. Okay, somebody starting out, somebody, a few months in, until they kind of get their bearings, understand what works for them and what feels good and what doesn't. A year in, maybe they can change it. Now, if you're doing push-pull legs, let's say you just started working out, you're doing push-pull legs and you put on a ton of muscle and you're doing great, don't change it. If you are progressing, whatever you're doing in this sport, I don't care what anybody says to you. If you're eating dog shit and you're getting bigger and you're gaining more muscle and someone says, hey, stop eating dog shit, go get some steak, tell them to just don't bother listening to them. Just turn away and do your own thing, because I know that sounds really stubborn, but if you're making good progress, I don't mean like you're gaining a little bit of muscle here and there. I mean, if you're making good progress and you're seeing yourself progress past your friends and you're doing well in competition and you're really making good progress that you can measure, I wouldn't change anything. So like I said, if you are doing a push-pull leg and you're seeing significant strength gains, muscle gains, you're seeing your body change, and you enjoy it, by all means, keep doing it. But if one day you see those gains slow down or start to stop or halt for a long period of time, it could be time for you to advance to the next phase. And for me, that was, I believe the next phase after push-pull legs is like 2 body parts a day. You know what I mean? Like you're going to train chest and shoulders one day, you're going to train back and calves, you're going to train bis and tris, this kind of setup, So I think it's okay to start, but everything is a progression in this sport. Mike Sheldon 4 says, do you think you will ever do another show? If I can stay healthy, which is a big, huge if at this point, because my body seems to, the closer I get to a show and the more my body fat levels drop, my body seems to not want to cooperate, for lack of a better phrase. As of right now, I have in my head that I will do the Indy Pro next year, or if they give me the invite to the Arnold, which they probably won't because you have to compete the years previous to get the Arnold invite, unless you're like Dexter Jackson or something. So if that's the case, I have my eyes set on the Indy Pro, and I'm doing everything with my surgeon and my physio and my coach, John, to get myself to that Indy Pro and in the best health that I can. Josh R. Bate says, how do you not feel small when cutting, and how do you not feel fat when building size? I do feel fat when building size. When I'm putting on muscle, like right now, okay, I'm trying to keep myself up at 285, 290 because I'm hurt, and I'm trying to like keep my fullness and keep some of this muscle on since I'm not training at 100%. And I do feel fat, but all I think to myself is this is a means to an end. Okay. Other people have other opinions. Other people can say, oh, you can stay lean. Oh, you can stay looking good. You can do this and that. Not for me. Okay. For me, my off seasons have been a little bit chubby. I get a little bit fat. It doesn't feel great. It doesn't look great in clothes. It doesn't look great naked, but my wife likes it. And I know it's a means to get to my next goal. And that's all that matters. So even though something might not be perfect in the moment, if you're aiming towards something down the road, then you have to, I hate this phrase so much, but you have to trust the process. And sometimes that process is not exactly what you want. Now, same thing goes when you're cutting. When I'm getting ready for a show, the first few weeks and the last few weeks, sometimes I feel small and shitty. I'm like, in the beginning, you still have fat on your body, but your muscle starts to flatten out, so you look like shit. And then at the end, you are so depleted that you're like, do I even have any muscle? Like I can't feel anything in the gym and this and that. Those are all normal feelings, but you just have to. This is why we have coaches. This is exactly what me and Luke were talking about on our podcast. This is why we have coaches, because when you're feeling depleted, when you feel small and your coach says, just eat this and do that, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry that you feel small. Your coach has got his eye on you, and you can just focus on getting the food in and training your ass off and doing the cardio. But if you're asking if we all feel like that, yeah, we all feel like that. And we just push through because you have to understand the process. Jordanella says, what is one thing you would change about actual bodybuilding shows? The only thing I would change about shows, I like it when all the shows are on one day. That's first of all. So if it's a Toronto Pro show, if it's a New York Pro, if it's a whatever Pro show, I like it when it's on the same day. I don't like 2-day shows. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I would move the finals closer, which I've done in my own shows. So at my shows, I have 2 amateur shows that I run. At my shows, the pre-judging is at 9 o'clock and the finals is usually at 2 or 3 o'clock. Now, the reason we did that is it's really easy for people to get out of the show at pre-judging, go have 1 meal or 2 meals and come back and get right back on stage. They're not tired. They're not fussing with where to go, where to be, any stuff. And secondly, after finals, it's only like 7 or 8 o'clock, 6 or 7 o'clock. It's not hard for anybody to get out of the show and go find a place to eat. In years past, we would have the show at like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. By the time you got out of the show, it was 10 or 11. A lot of restaurants are closed. You know, some of the pub and grub ones are open or whatever, but a lot of the nicer restaurants are closed, or, you know, you have trouble just finding places to go. So I think shows should be done all at once in the morning. Finals should be in the afternoon, early, closer to the pre-judging. Get the show done, and then you can have after parties, or you can have dinners, or you can have whatever you want, because you have the entire rest of the evening. As far as the way the shows are run, I don't really have any complaints. I'm kind of used to the system. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I would change. I think they run pretty smooth. I kind of like the way things are. I would just kind of make them closer together. DC Free says, DC Free 786 says, if you could only do 1 exercise per body part for the rest of your life, what would those exercises be and why? I'm not going to go through all these, but let's just say they're all compound movements. So I enjoy bench press, squat, military press, barbell rows, deadlifts, you know, standing barbell curls, press downs. There you go. There's all the body parts. So I just, I like the compound stuff. Okay. So let's leave it at that. Yari 513 says, I sometimes lose a pump towards the end of my training. Does that mean maybe I trained for too long? It could. There have been times when my eating has been good. I've been eating tons of calories, and I felt so good in the gym. I just wanted to keep going. And you reach a point where your pump is like insane. And then if you keep going past that point, then you're like, oh, okay, I lost my pump a little bit. And when you leave the gym, you don't feel as good as you felt had you left one exercise earlier. Now that is something I had to learn, because I always felt like more was better. And there was a point in my career where John took over and he was like, no, let's pull back. So I would get to a point where I felt really, really good. And I would do a couple exercises, and then he'd be like, okay, you're finished. And I'm like, okay, I feel like I could do more, but I'm going to go home. And I would go home and I would feel way better the next day, the next week. And I kept progressing that entire off season. Now, the other thing is, you could be eating enough, but you could be eating the wrong thing. So let's say your pre-workout meal is like chicken and rice, okay? Or chicken or shrimp and rice, or something really clean, like just a protein and a carb. One of the problems is, like for me, for example, if I eat potatoes, let's say I eat chicken and potato and there's no fat in it. My body will take in the potato, absorb it, and then it'll be gone. So my blood sugar goes like this. Potato goes in, blood sugar goes up, my body just absorbs it, and then my blood sugar crashes really fast afterward. And it might be just because it's a white starch like that. The potato seems to digest really fast for me. So just my insulin levels just go up and down. And when they go down, I kind of lose my pump, because now your blood sugar is kind of dropped and your body's not functioning the way it should be. So one of the things I did to combat that is, if I'm going to have olive oil, or if I'm going to have potatoes, I'll have some olive oil. So I'll actually bake a potato, mash it up, and put a tablespoon of olive oil on it with salt and pepper. And I'll have that with my chicken. And that little bit of olive oil is not enough to bloat me and ruin my workout, but it's enough to slow down that potato digestion. So it could be the same thing for you. Everybody's going to digest things differently. So it could be the same thing if you eat. This has happened to me with chicken and rice. If I eat chicken and white rice, it will sometimes digest extremely fast, depending on how insulin sensitive I am. in that phase of my off season. Let's say, and I'm not saying I take insulin. I'm saying, sometimes your body gets insulin resistant or carb, for lack of a better word, you get carb sensitive or carb resistant. So sometimes I'm really carb sensitive. And at those times, if I'm eating chicken and rice, that rice can go through me fast. Like my blood sugar will spike and it will drop. And then by the end of the workout, I'm tired and I've kind of lost my pump. One of the things I've done to extend that blood sugar and get it to be more of a level instead of a spike is I'll add coconut oil. So I'll cook my rice, I'll cook my chicken, and after both are done, I will melt a tablespoon of coconut oil on top of the rice with some salt. And that, first of all, the salt is going to help with my pump, but the fat, even though the MCT oil is even better, right? Because your coconut oil is half MCT. So your body's going to use that for energy too, but it's not full MCT, so it's still going to slow down that blood sugar rush from the rice. So it'll extend that blood sugar, right? That will allow me to keep my pump through my whole workout. So those to me are probably, I'm assuming from knowing who you are that you probably are eating enough. But that to me is probably the reason why your blood sugar is dropping so quick. You're either training too much and you don't know when to get out, which I've been there, or the food that you're eating before your training is being digested too quickly. Okay. So those are the two options. The other thing you could do for that too is if you don't want to add the fats, you could add a carb powder, which I also like in the off season. You could do cluster dextrin or a carbolin of some sort. You can add those like 50 grams of carbs during your workout. That way you're getting carbs in while you're training. That will also keep your blood sugar high while you're training. It's a good idea that way. Yosef Sue says, did you ever get a chance to or wish you got a chance to work with Rich Piana? I'm going to tell you guys a true story that I'm actually embarrassed by or not proud of. So when Rich Piana was coming up or extremely popular, I had this idea of who he was, even though I didn't know who he was and didn't actually watch his videos. I had this idea that he was ruining bodybuilding. I'm like, this guy, all he does is talk about drugs and he's just got all these tattoos and he's ruining the sport. He's ruining the image. He doesn't even compete. He's telling people not to go to expos and stuff. Before he passed, I started watching a lot of his videos and I was like, wow, you know what? I had the wrong idea about this guy. He's actually like a really good proponent of bodybuilding. Now, I don't agree with everything he said. I don't agree with not going to expos or not competing because it costs money or any of that stuff. I think if you want to compete, it costs money. So what? If you like competing and you want to compete, then do it. If you're doing it because you want to get rich and it's going to be your job for the rest of your life, that's probably the wrong reason. I don't think anybody should compete unless they love to, but that's another topic. The point is, I don't agree with everything he said, but I did see that he loved bodybuilding. He loved working out. He loved eating. He told everybody to eat and train hard and eat a lot of food. And he was a very, very good, honest ambassador of bodybuilding. I just felt like in a couple areas he maybe took it a little too far. Maybe because of his own experiences. I don't know. But overall, my opinion changed of him. And yeah, looking back on it, I do regret the way I acted and the way I felt because I bumped into him in Germany, I think we were. And he said hi, and I said hi. You know, I think we had a mutual respect for each other. He knew who I was. Obviously, I knew who he was. He's a celebrity. And we were training in the same gym, and I could have easily probably got into a training session with him and his buddies, and I didn't. And it's not that I thought I was better than him or anything. I just, one, I didn't want to bother him. But two, I didn't know who he was yet. And that's on me for judging a book by its cover. And looking back on it, I wish I would have taken the time to watch his videos and understand what he was trying to do at the time. So that's my Rich Piana story. Be Real Swan says, what is your dream car? Please say something with a manual gearbox. I will not. And I'm not saying that because you're wrong. Manual gearboxes are the most fun, but a Ferrari LaFerrari is probably my dream car at this moment. And it does not have a manual gearbox, but if you've ever driven a supercar, you'll know that driving a paddle shift with the engine behind you in your ear with the turbos spooling up is an exhilarating fucking thing. And you don't need a manual. You can't shift fast enough. You can't. I drove a paddle shift. Well, they're all paddle shift, but I drove a McLaren with the paddle shift. Put it in sport mode, so it was only manual with the paddles. I almost couldn't tap the paddles fast enough from 0 to 60 because it was like driving a sport bike. It just revved 1, 2, 3, 4th gear, 5th gear. It's just gone. And I always thought, I'll never buy anything without a manual. But after driving that car, I realized you can have a lot of fun in those cars. Just the experience of the speed and the sound of the engine in your ear and all this other shit. So yeah, the Ferrari LaFerrari is probably my favorite car at the moment. Brian Blacchio says, any tips when doing shows back to back? Depends. Let's say they're a week or two apart. Yeah, you're going to deplete, carb load, and do the first show. For the second show, I think you just, personally from my experience, I just go back to a base diet that's in between the carb load and the depletion. And then just do cardio through the next week and let your body kind of, okay, so let's say you did the show Saturday. You might go out Saturday night and celebrate because you won. You're going to have a cheat meal, or you're going to go out and be depressed and cry, but you're still going to have a cheat meal because it feels good. And then after that, you're going to wake up Sunday and just get back on the cardio. Get back on the cardio, get back on a moderate diet, and ride that out through the next week until you get on stage again. The second week is easier than the first because you're already peeled, you're already there. All you did was gain a little bit of water from a cheat meal. Once that water comes off, you're ready to step back on stage because you're already loaded from carb loading the week before. So the second week is always easier than the first, believe it or not, because you're not having to deplete and carb load and all this other shit. You can just kind of ride out your carb load that you had and then just get on stage again. Batman and Harley 0617 says, how does your protein consumption change from off-season to prep? Actually, it doesn't. My off-season and contest prep protein consumption is always 6 to 8 ounces. So if I'm eating a very high carb diet, which, yeah, okay, let's say this. It does change. It changes by that 2 ounces. Usually in the off-season, I'm eating a very high carb diet. I don't feel like I need as much protein, so I'll cut the portions to 6 ounces cooked. When I get ready for a show, obviously we're going to start to drop those carbs and drop the fats and clean everything up. My protein consumption might go up to 8 ounces. It didn't last show. That's why I said no originally, because last show my protein stayed consistent at 6 ounces cooked all the way through my year. But in years previous, I would go lower in the off season because I have a lot of extra calories, and then higher during my diet and probably 8 ounces cooked because I don't have the extra carbs or fats. Noah Health 66 says, when doing high volume 20 plus rep sets, if I'm failing at the prescribed rep range for a few sets but failing much sooner on the later sets, should I be lowering the weight for the later sets or continue failing at the lower rep range? I'm not sure why you're doing 20 rep sets unless it's like for quads, in which case I would say you may not be eating enough because okay, let's say it could be a few things. If you're not eating enough, your muscle is depleting too fast. You're getting out the power you need for the first set or two, and then your muscle's getting tired and you don't have the same endurance for set 3 and 4. The other thing could be you're not resting enough. If you're trying to go too fast and you're on like a 30-second rest or a 45-second rest, your muscle has not regenerated, for lack of a better word, has not come back to normal for you to start the next set. So you're not going to get the same amount of power. You're not going to get the same amount of performance. Now, if you're doing, I'm not sure where else you would be doing 20 rep sets. I don't advise it really for building a lot of muscle unless it's for, like I said, unless it's for legs. Otherwise, it would be a pyramid thing anyway, where you'd start with 20 reps and then go to 15 and 12 and 10 and 8. In which case you would increase the weight with each set. As you drop the reps, you would increase the weight. But like I said, if you're doing 20 rep sets for legs and you're doing like 5 sets on the leg press and you're doing 20 reps for each set, you should be able to knock out 20 for all 5 sets. If you can't, you may not be eating enough food, maybe not getting enough carbs, or you are not taking a long enough rest in between sets, in my opinion. Zachary 5 says, what supplements do you use and which ones are a waste of money? Well, me and Luke already touched on the glutamine factor being a waste of money. I don't know what's a waste of money. Everybody has different needs. I will tell you what my needs are. I need a good pre-workout. And I'm not talking a stim pre-workout, okay? Right now I use pre-caged by Cage Muscle. It's not a stim pre-workout. It's a pump pre-workout. So what that means is this. You can get a lot of pre-workouts that are stim-based, which means they have lots of caffeine, or maybe they're nootropic-based. So there's lots of caffeine, or there's lots of like mental focus ingredients, like alpha GPC, which is not a bad ingredient. But if that's all they're using is a lot of nootropics and a lot of stim, all they're trying to do is get you revved up mentally, okay? Now, that's not a bad thing. I like being revved up mentally, right? But you want to have the pump aspect too, okay? So what you want to do is you want to make sure you have a pre-workout that has heavy pump in it. So lots of citrulline, and I'm an advocate of L-citrulline, not citrulline malate. So you want to have a lot of citrulline. You want to have some creatine. You want to have a pump ingredient like a glycerol of some sort. There's a lot of different ingredients that you could add to help increase pump. But what I'm trying to tell you is this. I like a good pre-workout, but I don't like it to be heavy stim because I don't want to be cracked out in the gym, okay? I look for a pump pre-workout, one that's going to help send nutrients to the muscle and increase my volume. An intra-workout is always a good idea because like right now I use In-Cage by Cage Muscle. An intra-workout is always a great idea because it can help you keep your stamina through your workout. So let's say you're training quads and hamstrings, okay? That's probably a long day for a lot of people, hour and a half sometimes for me. That's where an intra-workout comes into play because it keeps me kind of going through my workout where I'm not going to hit a wall at an hour and then the last half hour of my workout's going to be shit. I have the intra-workout nutrients flowing through me to keep me going strong all the way through to the end. I think an essential amino acid is a really good idea because an essential amino acid wards off any catabolism. So right now we use Amino Synergy by Cage Muscle. It is an essential amino that I take during my cardio in the morning, or I might add to my pre-workout or things like that because it's going to help me keep from being catabolic because I'm being fed those essential aminos. The only other one, now look, there's an array of vitamins and minerals that I think are important, like curcumin, vitamin K, vitamin D, milk thistle, calcium. There's a whole host I could go through, but that's one. But going back to the bodybuilding supplements, the only other one I really am an advocate of is protein powder. So Cage Muscle has a protein powder called MicroPure, and it's a very pure isolate. And you can tell because if you drink a pure isolate, you could tell it first of all, it shakes up and it's clear. It's not all foamy and thick and shit. And second of all, if you drink it and you start getting a lot of gas or bloating or anything like, it's probably a lot of crap in there. Okay. Not all the time, but most of the time. So when you get MicroPure, you see, it's like when you shake it up, it's got a watery texture to it that I like. When I drink it, I don't get stomach discomfort or anything like that. I can tell it's absorbing properly. Right. So those 4 products. And then the 5th one would probably be a carb powder. Okay. Carb powders are, I think, essential in the off season. It's hard to get a lot of nutrients in sometimes. And whether it be like Real Food by like Rich Piana, that Real Food product is interesting to me because that's a carb powder I could use when I'm not going to the gym, or whether it be like a cluster dextrin or a carbolin type product that I would use around my gym time, whether it be pre-workout, intra-workout, post-workout. I really like the idea of a good carb powder. And I like both of those, to be honest with you, because I like the idea of having extra calories that aren't going to digest super, super fast, but they're more food-based, like the Real Food product that Rich Piana makes. I'm interested in that. I've never used it, but I have a lot of interest in it. That's it for supplements. Then there's other things that could be useful. You know, if you have trouble sleeping, there's a lot of good sleep aids out there. There's extras after that, but those 4 or 5 products to me are almost, I don't want to use the word essential because you can probably do well without them. But like I said, bodybuilding is a puzzle and you want to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So I'm going to say essential. If we're talking the perfect ideal situation. Okay. Those are 4 or 5, carb powder being the 5th. 4 or 5 of my favorite essential bodybuilding supplements. JK Vet in 94 says, thoughts on full body training, controlling for volume. I already kind of covered this in the beginning of this Q&A. I'm not an advocate of full body training. I don't think, unless you're starting out, you're brand new, it's your first day at the gym. I'm not an advocate of full body training. I don't think you can get enough out of, I just, like I said, unless you're a beginner, I don't think it's for me. Gymnastics Lover 10 says, what's your advice or protocol for working around hurt or injured muscles? I mean, before it gets too serious and needs medical attention. If you have an injury that's bothering you repeatedly, you need to get it checked. You need to go to a physiotherapist. You need to go to a doctor and get an ultrasound. Working around an injury is not hardcore. Okay. When I say I work around an injury, I've already diagnosed it. I've gone to see a physiotherapist. I've gone to see a massage therapist. I've gone for an ultrasound. I've gone somewhere and I've figured out what my problem is. Now I can work around it. Like I tore my tricep. Doctor's like, don't use your tricep. Okay. I'm going to train with one arm for the next 6 weeks until I can use the left arm. Once I can use the left arm, I'm only going to do things that don't involve the tricep. That's working around an injury. But you have to diagnose the injury before you work around it. You can't just pretend everything is fine and then just keep going to the gym and not know what's going on and have it get worse. Okay. Now, if you have like a nagging pain here and there, you know, whatever caused the pain or whatever is causing the pain, stay away from that exercise. You can do that for a couple weeks, but if after 2 or 3 weeks you're still having that pain and it's not getting any better, go get it diagnosed and figure out what it is. But if it's just a intermediate thing and you're not, you know, it's just a little bit painful. Let's say, okay, well, my knee's bothering me a little bit. Okay, what doesn't hurt my knee? Okay, I can't squat. If I squat, that hurts my knee. But I can leg press. Okay, I'll leg press. Okay, I can't hack squat, but I can reverse hack squat. Okay, I'll reverse hack squat. It's almost like a trial and error thing. You have to, this is why it's important to have a lot of tools in your arsenal when it comes to training exercises. Like some people say, oh, you don't need shit. You just need to do like squat, bench, and deadlift and whatever. Okay, what if you can't bench because something hurts? How are you going to grow your chest? Okay, well, I'll incline bench. Okay, that's another exercise. So you have to have a full array of exercises. And sometimes you just have to be creative. Like I sat down on the lateral, it's in one of my posts on Instagram. I sat down on the lateral shoulder machine, turned my body sideways and did front raises with it because I couldn't use this arm, but I could lift it. So it was okay to lift it, but it wasn't okay to grab onto things with it. So the point I'm trying to make is don't do things that hurt. Well, first diagnose the problem if it's serious. If it's not serious, avoid any exercises that affect it. Thirdly, try and learn to have a large array of exercises that you can choose from so that when you do have an injury that's not too serious, you can do those other exercises that don't bother it And lastly, try and get creative, because sometimes all the exercises you've been taught might still not work, but you still might want to get in there and do. For example, I saw Antoine. I forget what he was doing. I think, he was trying to do shrugs, but he couldn't do shrugs because he tore his bicep. So he got under the calf raise machine, standing calf raises, and just lifted his shoulders. And that was his way of doing shrugs. It's genius, right? It's absolutely brilliant. So this is kind of one of the things I'm talking about, but just stay away from things that hurt that area. Don't just keep doing them in hopes that it will go away. The Tommy Boy says, is 500 milligrams of Test E a reasonable first cycle? Without giving cycle advice, yeah. I mean, that's a good starting point. And you definitely, if you've never done any anabolics before, 500 milligrams should affect you pretty greatly. Skylar Greason says, recommendations for when training to failure without a training partner. You can easily train to failure without a training partner. You don't need, just don't do freeway movements. Like if let's say you want to bench press and you don't have a partner and you want to go to failure, use a Smith machine. Let's say you can bench 4 plates, but you're like, well, I don't want to bench 4 plates without my partner here. I can usually do 4 plates 8 times, but my partner's not here, so I'm not going to do it. Nonsense. Just get on the Smith machine and do 4 plates 10 times. You're still going to go to failure and you're still going to crush your chest. So I trained by myself for like 4 years when I lived in Toronto. I went to failure every day, right? There's no reason why you can't train to failure. You don't need a partner to train to failure. Matt Sprigg says, I've always only pushed up weight 15 to 20 pounds max in the off season, wanting to avoid getting fat before mini cutting or cutting down. However, I found overall I made minimal gains the last few years. Do you think there's any merit to really pushing your weight up? Okay, long question, but he basically is asking, I don't put on a lot of weight in the off season. Do you think if I put on more, I'll gain more muscle? 15 to 20 pounds over your stage weight is not a lot, because let's say you're 200 pounds on stage, right? And now you're 220. Well, 5 or 10 pounds of that is water. So you only put on 10 pounds of fat. You can't look that bad right now. I don't think it matters how much fat you put on. It's what your surplus is every day. So let's say your body needs 3,500 calories a day or 3,000 calories a day to survive. And then you add another 500 calories for output. So it's 3,500 calories. If all you're eating is 3,600 calories, there's going to be days where you might need more than that extra 100 calories. So I always have a bigger cushion, right? If my daily needs are 3,500, I might go up to 4,000. And if I still look good at 4,000, I might go up to 4,500. If I still look good at 4,500, I might go up to 5,000. If I start looking really shitty at 5,000, I'll pull back to 4,500. But I don't see anything wrong with, look, like I said, 15 to 20 pounds over stage weight is not a lot of weight. I don't see anything wrong with gaining more than that. Look, I weigh 290 pounds. I go on stage at 250. That's 40 pounds. Antoine goes on stage at 260. He was up at 300 pounds. Sergio Oliva was up at 305. He goes on stage at like 260 or something like that. There's nothing wrong with putting on a little bit of weight and getting bigger and feeding the muscle, okay? Dakota Ayacho says, do you change up foods between off-season and pre-contest, or just the portions of the same food types? No, I change up foods. So like my proteins when I'm dieting, I'll probably use really lean steak, like a flank or something like that, or an inside round or outside round, something like along those lines. In the off season, I'll probably use just ground beef. I don't use any, and I also add a lot of foods. Like I'll use cheeses in the off season, or sometimes I add shrimp. You can have shrimp when you're dieting, but I usually don't for some reason. So like I have a lot of shrimp in the off season versus when I'm dieting. Yeah, I have tuna. I have a lot. Like I said, you could use tuna when you're dieting too. But for some reason, I do tuna in the off season, and then when I'm dieting, I'll do whitefish like halibut or cod or something like that. So my food choices do change. And there's a lot more cheat meals in the off season. I'm doing like sometimes 3 or 4 cheat meals a week, and they're not crazy heavy cheat meals. Like, I'm not binging sometimes, but most of the time they're just, a couple burgers or something like that and some fries. But it's like I said, 3 or 4 times a week I'm having that. So yeah, there's some significant differences between my contest diet and my off season. Another one would be bread. I don't really eat any bread when I'm dieting. In the off season, I'll have a lot of Ezekiel bread, sometimes regular bread. Pasta, I don't really eat any pasta when I'm dieting. I have a lot more pasta in the off season. So there are significant changes. Max Merrick says, how was your tricep recovery going? What are some things now not to take for granted after going through some really shitty part of the recovery process? Triceps doing good. I found out, I actually just met with my surgeon today. He kind of felt around and got me to do some exercises, said everything feels great. Everything's working great. He said to me, actually, I can start to push things a little bit now. So I'm going to start to kind of get through. The one negative thing he said to me was the amount of time it took to lose the muscle in my arms, it will take 2 to 3 times to put it back on, which means it took me 3 months to lose this muscle in my arm, and I haven't been using it. He said it'll probably take 6 to 9 months to get it all back. So either I got to prove him wrong, or that's going to fucking suck because I don't want to wait 6 months to see my arms back to where they were. So I have a lot of work ahead of me. One of the things I don't take for granted is just being able to compete. When this happened, I was getting ready for the Toronto Pro, and I was starting to feel good about myself. I was starting to feel like I was bringing things back to where they were. And it's amazing the things you take for granted, man. You don't know what you have until you lose it. And without going to a long, shitty rant, if I get a chance to compete again, if I can stay healthy again through my next prep, I will be in heaven, because I would love to get on stage again and see what my body looks like one more time, or one more year. I'd like to get 1 or 2 more years of good competing, because it's been a couple years since I've been on stage. So I'd like to get those 2 years back before retiring. McLachlan Sean says, how do I find the right coach for me? Are there any red flags or warning signs? Okay. Warning signs. Anybody who's trying to push a lot of drugs, that's the biggest warning sign. Okay. Not only because they're selling you something and they're like trying to make a bunch of money off you, but more so because it means they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And they just give, and this is their claim to success is just that they've given all their clients a ton of drugs, and that's why they look good. So your first red sign is somebody who gives you a huge stack of drugs. Okay. That's a glaring red sign. Okay. Red flag. Other one is they don't have any experience. They've done nothing. They've done no shows. They haven't been training that long. They just kind of know, they think they know what they're talking about. To me, that's a red flag. Some people don't care, but to me, that's a red flag. Every great coach I know has had some competitive history. Doesn't mean they turn pro, but they know what it feels like. And to me, I need to know that my coach knows what I'm going through. So to me, it's a red flag if I meet somebody who's like, I've never competed before, never done a show before, I don't train really that hard, I've never dieted for the beach. Like that kind of scares me, right? I need to know that the guy I'm working with knows what it feels like. Now, if he has no experience in the actual field, he better have a lot of clients to back up his claims. Okay. So if I meet a guy who's got 0 experience in bodybuilding and 0 clients, but he sounds right, not going to happen. If I meet a guy who's got 0 experience in bodybuilding, but has 400 clients and 10 of them look, or whatever, 50% of them look awesome. Okay. I'll hear that guy out. The perfect combination for me is a guy who has tons of bodybuilding experience, not necessarily winning or pro or anything like that, but tons of bodybuilding experience, has a bunch of clients that look great, and understands what's going on. Now, those are some things that I need and some red flags. The biggest thing for me in finding a coach is, do I look up to the person and can I listen to them? Let's say they meet all the other criteria. If I can't listen to the person, if I don't look up to them in a way when they tell me to eat this food they're going to tell me to eat, I might think I know better. Well, I don't know. I don't think that's going to work for me. I'm going to do my own thing or whatever. Everybody I've worked with, even like part-time, I worked with some guys here and there and this and that. I've worked with a lot of different coaches. I've respected all of them. Okay. The reason I picked John lines up with who I am as a person more so than anybody else I've worked with. Okay. He understands my mental issues. And I say them as issues because I have anxiety. I get really worked up when I'm dieting. I get really worked up when I'm getting ready for a show. John has a very calming effect on me. He knows how to explain things to me that will just chill me the fuck out. That's important to me. So you have to have a coach. You have to find someone that you look up to, that is able to talk to you in a way that is able to keep you grounded, that is able to tell you to do what you need to do to get to the next step. Now, if you're hiring an online coach and you don't have a crazy connection or somebody that doesn't call you on the phone, stuff like that, like my clients we don't really talk on the phone. It's mostly through email. We may talk on the phone the last week before show. If you have that kind of coach, then you have to be self-motivated. That coach is going to give you instruction. I work with Chad Nichols. Okay. Chad Nichols was not a coddling type coach. He would say, here's your diet. I'll talk to you in 4 days or 3 days or a week or whatever. And then you would fuck off and go do his diet and do his cardio and do whatever he told you to do. You would go do whatever he told you to do. And then you would come back and show him your results. And then he would say, okay, change this, change that. And then come back and see me. So it's up to you to find out what kind of coach you need. If you just need an X's and O's coach, then you can go with someone like Chad. If you need someone you can talk to on the phone that's going to help you stay sane mentally, you got to find that coach. All I'm telling you is find somebody who has some experience, who has a good name, who comes in with a reputable client base. These are all things you want to look for, okay? And don't, for the God's sake, do not go with a coach who's just going to push a ton of drugs on you. It's not the right person. Okay, Noah Kagan says, what's your experience with taking a couple weeks off of lifting, muscle atrophy, and how long it takes to gain size? You're not going to get muscle atrophy in 2 weeks, especially if you're still eating your diet. The most I've taken off, I think, is a week, 10 days max. The muscle will flatten out. That's not atrophy. That's just like lack of glycogen from not training and not filling the muscle up. But it's not atrophy. Atrophy is actually losing tissue. So you don't have to worry about muscle atrophy. Just make sure you're eating your diet and take a break if you want to take a break. I usually take one break off every year. When I was competing, I still am competing, hopefully, but when I was actively competing, after every show, I would hit a rebound. And then after the rebound, I would usually take a week or two off and just do nothing. Sometimes I wouldn't even hit the rebound. Sometimes if I dieted really hard for 1 or 2 shows in a row, I would just take a week or two off right after the show. Usually a week is all I can handle, then I'm back at it. But you're not going to lose muscle. You're going to lose glycogen. The muscle is going to look like it atrophied because it's not being trained and filled up with blood. But that'll come back like real fast. Bia M. Wellness says, Fouad and Luke. Well, it's not Luke, it's just me. So what is some advice you would give to the significant other of someone in competition prep? What is the best way y'all wished your significant others helped with, if anything? Cooking, laundry, coming with me to the gym. All those things are very, very helpful. Once in a while, my wife doesn't do very much cooking for me, but that's kind of my own fault. I kind of like to make my own food, but once in a while, when she knows I'm really exhausted, she'll go to the kitchen and she'll make me like some chicken breasts and rice or whatever is on, because my diet's usually on the fridge. Whatever's on my diet, she'll make for me, and she knows I'm wiped out. That's a really, really nice thing, especially because she doesn't cook all my meals. So just seeing her go to the kitchen once in a while and make a meal for me I'm very thankful, right? Laundry. When I'm getting ready for a show, I go through a ton of laundry because I'm doing cardio in the morning. That's one outfit in the laundry. Then I'm going back to train. That's another outfit in the laundry. Then I might be going back for a second session of cardio. That's another outfit in the laundry. So I'm going through like piles and piles of laundry every 3 or 4 days, it really helps when she does my laundry for me. That's a big help to always know that I have clean clothes in my laundry and I don't have to worry about doing it. And then going to the gym. Sometimes when you're going back to the gym for that late session of cardio and you're just dead and you're like, holy fuck, I really don't want to go. It's really nice when your wife's like, come on, I'll go with you. Like she got her own job. She's got her own shit to do. So I don't know if you go to the gym with your significant other already, but mine doesn't usually. So, because she's got her own job and her own life. But once in a while, when she sees me really wiped out, she's like, yeah, I'll go with you to the gym. Let's go. And we'll go to the gym and she'll walk on the treadmill and I'll go on the step mill. And it's just nice knowing that that person's there with you. So it's just like, it's really, really small stuff. It doesn't have to be like all the people think it's like all this stuff. Like you have to do this stuff every day. Sometimes just like, she'll get my shakes ready for me, you know, like before I go to the gym, she'll be like, oh, what's in your shake? And I'll be like, well, I'm having this pre-workout and this essential amino and this, and she'll put it all together for me. And then I know that's ready for me already. While I'm getting my gym clothes on, that's already ready. I can just throw it in my bag and go. It's just really, really small stuff. Or even like I have that massage gun, like a Theragun, or mine's a Tim Tam. But I have that massage gun. Sometimes it's really nice. Like if I have my hamstrings are bothering me, I can lay down on my stomach. She'll be like, let me work out your hamstrings for you. And she'll just, you know, massage my hamstrings with the gun. And it kind of loosens things up. Now it's just a small thing. It's only 10 minutes, but it's just a nice touch. So just when you think of things, don't think on such a grand scale, like, oh, I got to cook all his meals or it doesn't mean anything, or I got to do all his laundry or it doesn't mean I got to go to the gym with him every fucking day. Sometimes if you're not already doing those things, just doing it once in a while is like a nice touch, right? And then also know this. If he's being really shitty to you, don't fight with him. Now, I'm not saying let him take advantage of you or let him be an asshole by any means. But when we diet, we get really moody and all that, if you don't already know this. And one thing that can make a diet really hard is when your girl is fighting with you constantly. So one of the problems me and my wife had before, you know, when we first started dating was she didn't understand that me dieting was a hard thing and it made me moody and shitty. And she took all of those mood swings personally. And it made our relationship really hard. It made dieting for shows really hard. And it wasn't until after we got past that she realized it's not personal. He's just fucking moody when he's hungry. And after she realized that, now when I would get moody, she would just leave the room. She'd be like, I'm going to go read a book, or I'm going to go take a bath, or I'm going to go whatever, take the dog for a walk. And she would just let me calm down on my own and not fight with me. And sometimes during a prep, when your husband is acting like a jerk, even though he deserves a slap, sometimes it's nice to just kind of walk away and let him be a jerk. He'll know. If he's a nice person, he'll know. When all is said and done, the show is said and done, everything's done, and he's, you know, got his trophy, he will know he put you through shit, and he will be very thankful that you did not hold him to it. And you kind of like let him get away with, give him a little bit of slack to be an asshole, right? Now, like I said, it's a little bit of slack. I'm not saying let him like run buckshot over you, but just, you know, it's nice to have a little bit of slack sometimes when you're not 100% in your own head, you know?